Alabama men's basketball team right now is the overall number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They've had a very good year. They've only had, I believe, 1 loss in the SEC all season. And their best player is future lottery pick Brandon Miller. But you will remember that the dark side of the Alabama basketball program this year was that, and this is crazy, Darius Miles, who was a scholarship member of the Alabama men's basketball team, was involved in a murder of a woman in Tuscaloosa. In particular, that woman's name, and I want to make sure that we name her, Jamea Jonae Harris, was shot to death on the Strip in Tuscaloosa. She had, at the time of the shooting, a 5-year-old boy. And Darius Miles was charged, one of 2 suspects, charged with capital murder for that shooting. So that is the background of this story for those of you who have not been following it. Darius Miles kicked off the team. I don't know. I'm assuming that he's still in prison. Maybe he has posted bail and is out. He's awaiting capital murder charges. Well, now comes more details. And I'm reading directly from AL.com, which is a website that covers the state of Alabama. Alabama's freshman basketball standout, Brandon Miller, brought the gun used on the Tuscaloosa Strip killing to that shooting, according to the testimony that occurred surrounding these capital murder charges. Miles contacted Miller. Miles was the Alabama player who's been charged with capital murder. Contacted Miller, asked him to bring his gun where they were, according to police. When Miller got to the scene, Miles told the shooter, the heat is in the hat, meaning a gun was present. Miles added, there's one in the head, meaning a round was in the chamber. Miles then moved his girlfriend back to get her out of the line of fire, and there was then a shooting, and another Alabama basketball player, Jaden Bradley, was also at the scene. Asked why Miller was not charged for bringing a loaded handgun to a murder scene when the shooting was occurring, he said, that's not a question I can answer. There's nothing we could charge him with, according to the law. Alabama's basketball coach, Nate Oats, said Miller, quote, is not in any trouble. Direct quote from Alabama men's basketball coach, Nate Oats. We knew about that. Can't control everything everybody does outside of practice. Nobody knew that was going to happen. College kids are out. Brandon hasn't been in any type of trouble, nor is he in any type of trouble in this case. Wrong spot at the wrong time. My mind is kind of blown by this, honestly. So there was no punishment given to Brandon Miller for bringing a loaded handgun that was used in the murder just off campus in Tuscaloosa? Look, this is an awful tragedy. But the idea that Brandon Miller is still enrolled, frankly, at the University of Alabama and representing the University of Alabama's basketball team when he brought a loaded gun that was used in a murder, and that Nate Oats just said he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Excuse me. He literally made it the wrong place and the wrong time when he brought a loaded handgun to be used in a murder at the behest of a teammate. I don't see how Brandon Miller plays for the rest of the year, frankly. And I can't believe that it appears Alabama was trying to cover up the fact that Brandon Miller was involved in this in any way. Frankly, it sounds to me like Brandon Miller got very favorable treatment, that he was not charged in a crime himself. He brought a loaded handgun to a teammate in an incident, right? Like, if you ask someone to bring you a loaded handgun, you give it to them, and then they're involved in a murder, to me, it seems at the very minimum degree you would be involved as an accessory to that murder. Because without your bringing the loaded handgun to the scene, there never would have been a murder. So I don't see how you wouldn't be charged in some way as an accessory to that murder, personally. Now, you can say, well, he didn't know what the loaded handgun was going to be used for. But if you get told to bring a loaded handgun to a street corner in Tuscaloosa, isn't it reasonable to believe that that gun is going to be used in a nefarious fashion, in a criminal manner? I mean, he wasn't asking him to bring a loaded handgun to the gun range so that they could go shoot targets. He wasn't asking him to bring a loaded handgun so that they could go skeet shoot out on a farm. He was being asked late at night to bring a loaded handgun to a corner just off the campus of the University of Alabama. And then a murder occurred. And for Nate Oats to come out and say wrong place, wrong time, I mean, he chose to be there. Again, Nate Oates' comments, wrong spot at the wrong time? Can't control everything everybody does outside of practice? I don't know. I think maybe saying don't kill anyone is something that I would like for a coach to be involved in trying to limit, right? Remember, Nate Oates asked Ray Lewis for advice on how to deal with this. I don't see how in the world that Brandon Miller is still representing the University of Alabama men's basketball team in any way. I mean, his tenure at Alabama should be over, and I frankly don't understand how he avoided criminal charges in this case and how Alabama was able to keep this quiet until almost March. This is like, we talk about guys getting suspended for a variety of different incidents, right? It's not uncommon for guys to get suspended. Bringing a loaded handgun to a murder scene seems like it's something that shouldn't allow you to continue to represent a basketball team. And wrong place, wrong time. When you create the wrong place by helping to facilitate that by bringing a loaded handgun to a scene, I don't understand how in the world you are still representing the University of Alabama. I think Brandon Miller's tenure with the Crimson Tide has to come to a close. I mean, and if you strip away the fandom, and you just say from any school in America, if one of your players brought a loaded handgun to a scene and a murder occurred, how in the world does that guy continue to represent your university? I think that's a pretty bright line rule. Don't facilitate a murder. Seems like a very lenient standard for what we would expect from an athlete who is on scholarship at a university. It's staggering to me that Brandon Miller is still representing the University of Alabama in any capacity, notwithstanding his talents, and that Alabama clearly believes there's something wrong here, or they would have been forthcoming about this from the beginning. This is crazy. It's crazy.